and welcome to MixMixx. My name is Kwesi Esonbako. On the table today, we are looking at the subject of chiefs in Ghana and how much power they really wield, or if they have been given a good deal under the constitutional arrangement that made them surrender all of the authority to the central government. Almost all of the authority, I should say. Now, recently, the Domahine made a certain statement which many interpreted to mean that he was wallowing into active party politics and were quick to cite the Constitution. Now, if we look at Article 276 in the Ghanaian Constitution, it states that chiefs may not participate in active party politics. But what is active party politics? What is that? Because chiefs, before the adoption of constitutional rule in Ghana, or let's say before the advent of what we now see as democracy, were the legitimate authority in Ghana. With the adoption of the so-called constitutional rule or the so-called democratic dispensation, chiefs were made to give almost all of the authority to the central government. But in exchange for what? Let's look closely at this subject and decide for ourselves if some of these things really do make sense. Now, to start with, chiefs are not allowed to endorse a candidate for a political position. Now, I think that's not right. And this is why. Chiefs are supposed to be the custodians of their lands. They are supposed to be the people who have the best interest of their areas at heart. To tell them that they cannot decide for their people who the best political candidate should be, I think is shortchanging them. And to be honest with you, I don't think that's what the Constitution really meant when they said that. Because when you read the Constitution in detail, you realize that my interpretation, and I'm not a lawyer or a judge or a legal, person of any imagination or of anybody's imagination, but I can read English and I can understand most of what I read. What I read in that Constitution is that chiefs cannot partake in the actual process of politicking, but endorsing somebody, I don't think is part of that provision over there. Why? Because chiefs are supposed to have the best interest of their people at heart. So then when the chief realizes that there are two candidates, one of who has a better agenda, which is going to suit his area and his people better than the other, what stops them from going ahead and endorsing them? I need answers to this, because I do not think that chiefs should be entirely left out of the process. Because when that happens, what's actually going on is that somebody can come and just, deceive the people with cheap political talk. And even if the chief recognizes this, he is barred from saying so. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right at all. I think that chiefs should have a very active role to play in determining who they think will serve their constituents better, or their subjects, if you will, better, right? So here goes. As an example, if somebody comes and says, I'm going to build toilets for you, and the chief realizes that, no, my constituents don't need toilets, they need, say, schools, for instance. The chief is barred from telling his his subjects that don't vote for this person because he doesn't have the best package for us, but this person does. Whereas the development of his area is in his bosom. And like I said, before we all signed on to the Constitution, the authority actually belonged to the chiefs. They were the ones who were spearheading the progress of their communities. I think this should really be looked at, and whoever interprets the law should take a second look at this, so that chiefs are not left out of the process of choosing the best candidate for their people or for their areas. Now, let's look at what chiefs got in return when they surrendered most of their power to the central government. The government took their lands, the government took their authority, and what did they get in return? A national house of chiefs which is not remunerated. So chiefs are left as mere icons presiding over their legal jurisdictions. And save a few palaces here and there, most of these palaces have no authority at all. I've seen chiefs being arrested by the central government. I know of a situation where parliament, members of parliament, have certain immunities and chiefs don't. So what the chiefs get for submitting or for surrendering, I should say, the authority to the central government? There's no financial remuneration. There's nothing that's made to balance that gap in authority. None. And now let's look at it a bit more closely. The Constitution of Ghana gives everybody the freedom of speech. Every single individual has the freedom of speech and the freedom of association and the freedom of choice. Now, if the subjects can speak their mind, how come the chief, who, with all due respect, and I'm saying this advisedly, right? But let's say the chief is somehow above their subjects, but their subjects can express themselves and they can't. How does that work? The chief is also an individual who has an opinion which is protected by the constitution of the land. The chiefs may have certain knowledge which other people may not have. The chief has a burden placed on them by virtue of the fact that they are the leaders of these communities. And yet everybody else can chime in on a subject and they can't. I think that chiefs, as the custodians of their land, should have a voice in determining who becomes the president or the member of parliament for their area. Why? Because they, more than a lot of the other people who are guaranteed freedom of speech, may know more and may have a more vested interest in the area. Let's say somebody moves from a certain part of Ghana where they are not necessarily from, and they go to live in a certain area. They have a freedom of speech, so they can say what they want and determine who becomes the member of parliament for that area where they live, where they can move out of any time they choose to. Whereas the chief, into whose bosom all the responsibility of the land is invested, cannot say who should become the member of parliament or who should become the president. I think that the framers of the Constitution, or whoever, like I said, is responsible for interpreting it, should really look at it closely and interpret it properly so that chiefs can become more relevant in the process of choosing leaders for our people. Our chiefs have been reduced to mere lackeys sitting and just yes-saying all politicians who pass through, regardless how they feel about them, because that's what the law says. I think that's wrong. I think the chiefs should be allowed to say, my people need XYZ, and this candidate has said they're going to do XYZ. Therefore, I think that me and my people are going to go this way. I think that should be the case. Now, don't get me wrong. I am fully aware of the dangers this could also bring. I'm not trying to bury my head in the sand. Because the truth of the matter is that we may find certain chiefs who may be so ingrained with a certain political tradition that they may want to pass it down, through fair or foul means down to their subjects. And this is a real problem. Nobody's running away from that. However, the chief cannot force people to vote. They can only influence, they can only suggest, they can only say, right? So that if the chief says vote for party A because we need XYZ, it's up to the constituents to still make up their mind who to vote for. And in this case, we are having more transparency because then we know exactly where the chief stands, rather than have chiefs doing all kind of dirty politicking in the background. I don't think that augurs well for Ghana and for the process of choosing our leaders. I think that chiefs should be given the free will to endorse the political leaders of their choice. I was recently reading the proper sexual bill, the proper sexual practice bill, whatever it's called, the anti-gay bill people call it. And then I came across a clause that says, if somebody finds that somebody's engaging in that practice, they have an obligation to report to the police or to a traditional authority. Does anybody see anything there? Because look at this. The police is funded by the government. All the other institutions that are required to back this bill up are funded by the government. However, the Constitution is placing a burden on traditional authority without giving them any requisite funding to go with it. Because check this out. Once the traditional authorities receive these complaints, they are duty bound to pass it on within 7 days. That process could require certain logistics. How does a chief report to the police or to whatever other authority after they receive such a report? Does the chief have to drive to the police station? Does he have to make a phone call? Whatever it is, there is some logistics involved, which the government says nothing about. The government does not give chiefs anything to say, okay, this is your budget to support our activities. Yet, the burden has been fully placed on them. And this is what I'm talking about when I ask for what the chiefs surrender their authority. Ghana's best.
Hello everyone, my name is Yvonne Chaka Chaka and I'm so proud to be Goodwill Ambassador of the Pan-African Heritage World Museum. It is time for the world to learn from the missing pages of Africa's history, art, culture and indigenous knowledge. Join Africa to exhibit and curate her rich herbal plant farms, her historic places of African kingdoms, her beautifully sculptured park of heroes and heroines, Pan-Africa's hidden innovators and inventors, all in one 10-acre space of the Pan-African Heritage City in Ghana, Winneba Junction, 45 kilometers west of Accra. Visit our website. Let's together build a new humanity through walls of the Pan-African Heritage World Museum.
Fruit twist juices come in two flavors, pineapple only and ginger and pineapple, available in all shops across Ghana. For bulk purchases and deliveries, call 020-8855-795. Fruit twist juices. Refreshing.
you me basa. You me you tifa.
Me so on hospital, my car so on call.
Me high uncle sunlight at hospital. A brand new technology about. And you be a baby. Also for the king. That one technology about one thing.
Yes. With DocPem, you can meet your physician online via a video call for medical advice. With DocPem, you can chat via text, vocal, and even send images to your specialist in order to get medical advice. With DocPem, you can get advice from the best specialists from anywhere in the world in seconds.
Go to your Play Store or your App Store and download your DocPem today.
DocPem convenience.
Welcome to High Touch Event Center. Planning a wedding, birthday party, corporate event, or just looking for a place to relax? We got you. We got free airport pickups for clients arriving from overseas. Our rooms are standard with all the amenities you need. Our compound can hold up to 1,500 people, and our VIP section lives up to its name. It's truly exclusive. We are located in a serene environment of the Amasaman Kaswa Road. Ask for Adade Last Stop. For bookings and inquiries, call us +233 554 065 852. We are on social media. High Touch Event Center, always a fun place. For what? Just for the name and the recognition as being the chief? When our political leaders are seeking authority or seeking power, they become fully aware of the importance of chiefs and traditional rulers. They go to them, they bow to them if they have to, they sit next to them, they shower them with all types of praise. And when they become the president or the member of parliament or whatever, somehow all that fizzles out and the chief falls beneath them. Let me go back to the situation about, chiefs misusing this provision. It is very, very likely that certain chiefs may be ingrained in a certain political tradition and therefore may not necessarily make the best choice for their people. Everything in this world has an if or a but. Everything, right? So we cannot use that as an excuse to deny chiefs in total. They are right to choose what's good for their people. We cannot do that. We have to make sure that chiefs, first as individuals, are also included in the clause that says every citizen has the right to freedom of speech. Number one. Number two, chiefs, as the custodians of their lands and the traditions of their people, most of who are actually very much vested in the development of their areas, I think should have the right to help their people choose who will serve their communities best. I think so. Personally, I think it's preposterous that the subjects of the chief can have a say in how governance goes and the chiefs cannot. I think this excludes the chiefs from the process of choosing the best leaders for their communities. And that, I think, is not right. I personally have said that we've been practicing the form of democracy that we've been practicing for a while. And we've all seen the results. We've seen some positives come out of it. But we've all seen what political power in the hands of the average Joe can also do. I have propounded, I've tossed this idea around with some erudite friends of mine about the possibility of having a parliament which is made up of the House of Chiefs. How about converting the National House of Chiefs into the legislative body of our country. Do you know how much money that would save us? Because we don't have to spend millions and millions and millions of cedis and dollars bribing people, conducting campaigns and doing all of these things just to win the seat to go and be in parliament. Rather, we have a parliament where the people who constitute that assembly are the people who the traditional authority have been vested in. So that when they meet and they are talking because they know that they are speaking for the stool on which they sit. Rather than for somebody who's going to come for 4 years, spend millions of money and has to recoup it, and therefore is focused on all and other things apart from what they should be focused on. Some have said it's a preposterous idea. Some have said, some are in between. And some have agreed with me. Because really and truly, let's check it out. All the money spent on politicking will be saved. And then all the parliamentarians, who will be the chiefs, will have a real interest in the development of their areas. Because metimi na na akonya so, mempese me na nanu meni mbegu ase. Etimi mfa akonya na mete so na enko nkoto chacha. When I go to parliament, I'll make sure that I'm actually seeking what is going to be good for my area, so that once I'm not there, my name will be there, and then my stool will be prominent in the stool room. It may be far-fetched for some people, because some people just don't want to think beyond what is already said. But most progressive countries that I know in this world are not going by the rule of the so-called democracy that is handed down to us. Most people actually take that and then add on to it, considering their own unique cultural and other backdrop. Most countries that I know would take democracy and kind of update it, upgrade it to suit their own purpose. So we're not saying a complete no to democracy. Yes, democracy is good, right? We don't want a system where the chiefs were the be-all in all. So the national nature of our country is good, don't get me wrong. We still need the president in place. We still need a parliament in place. But how about having the chiefs be the parliamentarians? Or better still, in certain countries where there are 2 chambers of parliament, how about have the chiefs as another chamber, invested with enough power to actually be able to influence the other chamber? Like when you go to Britain, they have the Commons and the whatnot. Other countries have that too. In the United States, they have the Senate, and then they have the Congress and all of that. How about having the chiefs form a solid constituent body which is given proper authority, rather than the National House of Chiefs that we see, which is just like a symbol, so to speak? Let's all think about this, Ghana. Let us all think about it. But above all, let us interpret that Article 276 properly, the clause 1. Let's interpret it properly. Because first of all, I don't think that it says chiefs cannot endorse leaders. It says chiefs cannot partake in active party politics. My read of that is that they cannot go and be like, okay, I'm going to want to be the member of parliament, or I'm going to want to be this or that or the next, or I'm the chairman of a certain party or whatnot. But for crying out loud, why can't they, seeing the obvious that this candidate is good and that candidate is bad news, say so for the welfare of their own subjects? It makes no sense to me. But that's just me. I don't know what you think. Let's hear from you what you think, and let's get this discussion going. I'm going to try to engage some erudite heads. Until then, let's all realize that we are one Ghana who have to protect our heritage. And we cannot protect our heritage by putting a cap over the chiefs who are supposed to be the authority, who are and were the authority before we all decided that we're going to surrender all of the authority, almost all of the authority, to the central government. With the exception of one or two chiefs or kings who obviously have a lot of power. I know some kings who hold court in their palaces and what they say holds a lot of water. But I know of a lot of other chiefs who have no authority at all. And whatever they say is subject to what the is subject to what the national law says. That is so for every chief. But what I'm saying is this: how come some of the chiefs have cells in their palaces? How come some of the chiefs can impose fines on people, but some chiefs can be arrested just like that by the government? And the fact that chiefs are not given any budget to operate with, some of these chiefs are chiefs only in name. Nobody really respects them. Because the subjects drive bigger cars, they build bigger houses, they dress in better clothes, they have more property. So how dare any chief go tell any rich man in their community to do something or not to do something? That's the point I am making. And I think that the National House of Chiefs should also look at this matter closely and maybe make certain demands of the government. Government, we surrendered our authority to you. What do we get in return? The reason why most of our chiefs have been reduced to lackeys who go praise singing politicians is because they have no real authority. So they're either playing lackey to these politicians just to be able to source development to their areas, or sometimes even to just get something no feel for themselves because they cannot afford a lot of things. There are chiefs who have gold buried in their grounds, but the government can issue a license for somebody to come and start digging the ground without giving them anything. That's not right. That's my challenge to you, National House of Chiefs. Make demands of the government. Ask for a budget. Ask for a budget. When the budget is drawn for the country for the year, there should be part of it that goes to traditional authority, just like we have the District Assembly Common Fund and all of that. There should be a fund for the chiefs to use to develop their areas too, and to put them in a position where they feel proud of themselves and they can stand on their feet and say no to some politicians when they see that they are not doing the right thing. Our chiefs need their proper respect. And that's my take for today. My name is Kwesi Isonbako. I say it as it is. I come in peace. I come not to please. Thank you for doing the watching. I'll see you next week with a different topic. Have a good time. Goodbye.